Hey, folks, welcome to the latest episode of Cruising with the Coaches, a conversation with Julie and Lee, my co host with the most, Julie Cruz. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. I see we both got the memo for I'm kind of wearing blue a little bit, and you got blue on, but things are good. We're getting into those summer months, and this is not on today's show, but I do want to address something real quick if you want to go with me down this
Sure,
path.
sure. Down the rabbit hole.
So yeah, and for lack of sounding cringe,
Oh no.
um, oh no, 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 no. You are a person who has taken a shower once or twice, right? Would you
Oh
say?
yeah.
Look, there are people who don't. There are people who
Yes.
believe in,
No.
the
I get it.
natural whatever.
Yes.
At some point, I do want to do a show for talking about like skincare and that kind of thing for guys because
Okay.
it's not something that's talked about, right?
Okay.
But I have a confession to make. I have a confession to make.
Okay.
I'm in love with my loofah.
As a person who has only used loofah and brushes, like I don't like it was so fun. Even my whole household, like we that's all we have. And I literally just had a guest, a house guest, who's like, "Do you have washcloths?" And I'm like, I don't have a washcloth in my whole house. Like, that is crazy.
I'm just saying, guys, you gotta trust me on this. And because they in attempts to make hygiene and skincare and all that stuff masculine, right? And let's just throw masculine
Well,
out the
it's just
window. But
about skin, just exfoliating. That's all. It's
that's
not really
it's
about, yeah,
that's what I'm telling. And I have psoriasis, so I've had this for
correct.
I don't know, 15, 16, whatever, since my teenage years, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
skincare is a
And you've
thing for
never
me,
used a loofah before?
not intentionally.
Wow. Okay, so I would have assumed that you would have been
Mm.
exposed just
It was,
because
washcloths, towels, all that stuff.
oh wow.
The manly thing of soap on the hand, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it
I
changed your
mean,
life, is what you're
I,
saying.
I'm in love with my loofah. What can I say?
It's a beautiful thing.
Folks, we're real. That's what I'm saying. We bring it to you real.
That's facts.
Yes.
That's funny.
But oh my gosh, like the hand who I've never been able to scrub my back until having the loofah with the hand, like, it's brilliant. It's
And I'm like,
brilliant.
how do you not know? I mean, like, uh, honestly, well, I should say that because growing up, we always used washcloths. It was something I
Right,
did
right.
once, becoming an adult and what have you.
You're like,
But yeah,
"Oh, let me yeah."
yeah,
So
like,
I'm
what's
just saying.
happening?
Just saying. I love your reaction though when I said I'm in love with, and you were waiting
I'm
like
like patiently, like, what? Oh, that's funny.
oh man. But speaking of love, right? Speaking of
Yes,
love,
yes.
that's kind of what our topic is about today. We came across something, the thing you had sent me from TikTok, right?
Correct.
And let me go and pop that on there. Um, the Burned Haystack Dating Method, right?
Correct. Yes.
Which was kind of cool. I was kind of digging into that in the post that you'd shared, or shared with me. That was from one of your friends.
Hmm.
It's interesting because I've never heard of it before, and yeah, no, I'm not currently dating, but
Right.
I just never. Just so we're clear, folks.
Yeah.
But after hearing about it, and it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. So just for curiosity, if you guys are interested to know what the burned haystack dating method is, and excuse me, this is not just for dating apps, right?
Correct.
But
Correct.
how do you? So this is where the burned haystack method comes from. How do you find a needle in a haystack? Well, you burn the hay to the ground, and then eventually you'll find that needle because the metal doesn't burn like the hay does. So I found that interesting. Interesting take on a dating method. And so before we jump into the rules of the burned haystack method, anything you want to share, your thoughts on like what you think about it?
Well, I mean, for me, I mean, and just so we're clear, the method was created by Dr. Jenny Young.
Mm,
And I it's funny because the reason why it struck me was because in reading all the rules and all the information that it was providing, I'm like, I do this just in relationships in general, not just dating, apps.
sure, sure.
Like I for me, it's always trying to find or weed out the superficial relationships and find
Mhm.
those that are actual connections. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where I found it to be interesting. I was like, well, why are why are these only applying to dating apps? Like, well, why aren't people like using this for
Applying this
real
to
folks
life.
in their life? Yeah, yeah.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, I just thought it was very interesting because it's more about relations with intention, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, 100%. And I've been thinking, like when I was going through it too, um, for full disclosure here, after having come out of functional depression, I started, or not started, I've been really good at not just creating boundaries, but
Mhm.
applying them, right? And
Correct.
so there are still so many people that I want to get back in touch with,
Mhm.
but I'm having to take my time because what is the relationship? Am I ready to reconnect with these people? Or is it going to trigger me to get back into things that may or may not serve a purpose, you know?
And I'm so glad that you shared that because, like, I'm coming out of what would be a grieving process. And
Mhm,
so, even with that, I found that I have released some relationships that not necessarily weren't good for me, but weren't serving me in the way that I needed it to serve me at that point in time. So, like, trying
mhm,
to figure out how to get back to that, like you said, functional depression, it was basically like functional funk. Like I couldn't attach. I couldn't. Like there were a
mhm.
handful of people who I maintained in my
Yes,
life,
yes.
mostly because they reached out. And let's be clear. But like there were some of the relationships that I still cherished, but I couldn't
Mhm.
muster up the energy to really truly be purposeful, if that makes sense.
100%. Because also I'm willing to bet you had to do something similar where you had to shrink your world down so you could function,
Correct. Correct.
and you and your kids, and
Yes.
me and my family. Like I had to shrink my world down. And like you said, coming on the other side of that, um, yeah, like how does that work? What does it
Yeah.
look like? And
Facts.
so it, I know there's some people out there who might be listening who I'm trying to reconnect with. Be patient. Give me
Right,
patience.
right. And I mean, and I definitely feel the same. Like it's like, hey, I still
Yeah,
love you. And the love hasn't
absolutely.
changed. It's
Yes.
just I needed to change some things in my life to make sure I was 1,000% before I could even give you 100, if that makes sense. So,
Man, dropping the mic, folks. But again, we give it to you real, right? We're real
facts.
people. We've been through some real things. So we're trying to help you with whatever you might be going through in your life. So now let's go ahead and jump back into our burned haystack dating method, or maybe we just call it the burned haystack method, since we're not
Yes.
talking about just dating.
Yes.
But oh, I think I went too far in the slides because what was her name? Dr.
Jenny Young. Yes.
Jenny Young, yes,
Dr.
who
Jenny
can be found on TikTok as Crazy Locks 918. Um, so again, this is the burned haystack dating method, but there's five basic rules. Okay, and we're gonna put the rules on there, and we'll chit chat about each one. So the first one, um, and I this made me laugh.
Young. The bitchy profile.
So she says, use or create a profile that is off-putting to most men, and that's sometimes referred to as the bitchy profile. All right.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, no, you first. You first. Go ahead.
No, I kind of understand it, but I didn't understand it because, like, it's,
Yeah.
I guess depending on what it is that you're trying to attract, um, I wouldn't intentionally. I looked at it more as when it being more about be who you are and what you
Hmm.
really want and be clear. But like as far as putting up the and I can attest, I have a lot of single friends who will say stuff that I'm like looking at it like, "O- okay, like
Well,
not really sure what that's attracting, but like, if that's what you want,
but then you don't get to cry about what's being attracted. Like, hmm.
exactly. But yeah,
Well,
I'm not real clear on like the boundaries, like I mean, obviously
yeah.
anybody who would see me or knows me knows I have children and all that good jazz.
Hmm.
But that's not
Hmm.
something I'm very forthcoming with, because it's just kind of like, first of all, they're adult children. They're not,
Hmm. Hmm.
they have their own lives. But that's not something I start with. It's like I kind of
Right.
want to get to know you kind of a thing before we can even
Well, because
talk about
that's a personal thing, and if you
correct.
haven't reached that level that you get to know more personal things, then you don't need to know about my kids. Like,
Exactly.
you might not get to that level.
Chances are you won't, but that's okay.
Uh, well,
Just being
this is an
honest.
edit point. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Not an edit point. Not an edit point. I
Oh,
looked at this from a guy's perspective,
okay.
and I can see where this off-putting profile, right? It's it's no nonsense. It's being authentic, but getting past the bullshit, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It's going to off-put guys who are what's the word I'm looking for? I'm having who are not mature, who are immature, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because I looked at it from a standpoint of man, that would be awesome if I were in dating right now. Let's cut through the fluff. Let's cut through. Okay, I can when we're in conversation,
Hmm.
I can get to know all that there, right?
Right.
Or
Right.
date whatever. And that's what she was saying about this profile, right? It's
Correct.
going to separate the wheat from the chaff. So all the immature guys who might be looking to play games and all that stuff, it's going to be off-putting or bitchy to them because they're like, oh, you think you're and a mature guy's gonna be like, cool, down to business. I'm
Yes.
swipe
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So I think there were a couple of different perspectives there. I don't know if calling it a bitchy profile is correct, but you know,
That's what it is. That's what it is.
that's what they call it. All right. So number two. Oh, anything you want to add about rule number one before we go on?
I mean, like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with being forthcoming, but
Mhm.
also, I don't know. To each his own. Like, I'm not going to judge anybody on what they want to say and what they don't want to say. But I mean, let's get rid of the bikini shots and all that other kind of, like quit trying to
If
make yourself look like something that you're not, I guess is
unless that's what you're trying to attract. If
exactly.
that's how you want to roll, do you? Do you? Hold on. See, now I can you said get rid of the bikini shots. Now we're gonna be getting emails. Julie, where's your bikini shots? Lee,
Negative.
where's your bikini
Negative.
shots?
No, no such thing.
I promise. I'll post the Speedo shot. I'm kidding, kidding. No Speedo shots, y'all. So this now, rule number two is specifically for a dating app, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
is block and don't swipe left. All
Yes.
right.
That's more of an
So
algorithm thing.
absolutely. And it made sense because when she's saying, like, if you swipe left, I'm going to put this in terms of like Spotify with
Hmm.
music. Okay. Because I just noticed this the other day. You put a playlist on or a suggested playlist, and there's a smart function with Spotify where it will start to also recommend music compared to that playlist. Okay.
Okay.
So if you keep swiping through songs like cool, I don't want to listen to that. You don't save it to the playlist, but you keep going. It will eventually put that song back in the playlist for recommendation again.
Correct. Correct.
So that's what she's talking about with block instead of swipe left. So if you swipe left, and I'm assuming here on the dating app,
Yes.
but if you swipe left, that just says you're not interested in that person.
Right.
But if you block them, it keeps this profile from coming back around, right?
Correct.
It's not going to keep, the algorithm's not going to say, oh, okay, here's another recommendation. Here's another recommendation. It's the same person 10, 15, 20 times, So easier to block instead of swiping left.
But you can also apply this to life, though. Let's talk about that. So,
Okay.
if you
Okay.
have individuals who are reaching out to you who you are not really interested in hanging out with, do you see what I'm saying? So,
Block.
block,
Do
block.
not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
That's
even
fair.
necessarily have to be, I don't like you. I don't like, maybe they're just from a period of time in your life where, you don't really care to visit those times again. If
Fair.
that makes
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Because if they're thinking, well, if you've grown as a person, or
correct.
not even if you've changed as a person, okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna be positive and hope it's growth. But
Right.
but if you've changed as a person, and there are areas in your life where you're not trying to revisit, but there are some folks who are stuck in that area that they're trying to get you to revisit.
Correct.
You're not the same person.
No.
So it like you said, it's not that you don't have love or don't like that person,
Right.
but that's something that you can't move backwards for. That's a block. That's a
Yes.
block.
Yes.
I'll even come from it from a business standpoint.
Okay.
Once my number, well, my business number
Mm.
was out there in the sphere in the world. Oh my gosh, the amount of promotions and fluff and oh hey this and it's oh they get really good because they're like, hey, remember that conversation we had? And I'm like, no, I
Yes.
don't.
Just
Because
referring to our previous discussion, and you're like, what discussion are you referring to?
I have a lot of discussions and you weren't in any of them. So
Exactly.
and so yeah, I block those numbers, but it's funny because then they come back around with a different number, you know?
Hmm. Yep.
Same thing, different numbers. So I block each time. So yes, there is definitely a real life application with blocking. In real life, what happens if you swipe left or right? Do you know? Can you do that? And
My wish.
ooh, I won't ask who's gonna get swiped. So we'll go past that. We'll go past that.
Well, because the other thing with that too is, with the left and the right is thinking about in person. Like, are
Mhm.
there folks in your life who use you as a placeholder? Not
Ooh.
necessarily that they are, a person who has interest in you as far as like what your same interests are. What if you
Mhm.
are literally just a placeholder to someone? A
Man.
person who is lonely, a person who, you know, and we all have that person in our life who, when they're in a relationship, they are completely like unreachable. You can't talk to them, blah, 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 blah. Then as soon as
Mhm.
they become single, oh, then they're hitting you up. Hey, what are you doing? Can
Hey,
we
you wanna go
hang
to
out?
lunch? Wanna go to get some drinks? And you're like,
Exactly. So
"Hmm,
let's talk about the left and the right with those folks. Like, if you're a
hmm."
placeholder for someone, you just need to learn, hey, what the pattern is, and then just
Or recognize that you're a placeholder for someone. You if you're
yeah,
listening to this and you just realized you are a placeholder,
facts.
we're cool. We're we're not judging anybody,
No,
but
no,
if you're learning that, yeah,
yeah,
not cool to be a placeholder. No.
no. Because if you're okay with it, that's one thing. Because
Yeah.
there are certain people who you're busy, that's your lifestyle. Hey, if this person
Mhm.
wants to reach out every 6 months or what have you, that's one thing. But
If you've
if it
learned the
is
pattern. Mhm.
exactly, or if it is more of a situation of when they're single and when they're not single, then,
Mhm.
make sure you found someone who's consistent all the time. Like, you want that person to want to hang out all the time, not just necessarily when they're available.
100%. I that's another thing you heard us in the beginning of the show, talking about coming out of this functional depression. I definitely have learned more so how to apply this, being pouring energy into
Mhm.
the people that are pouring energy back into me, you know,
Yes.
with
Yes.
without being angry or bitter. You
Correct.
know,
Correct.
that's a key part is if I'm angry and bitter about it, then that's still not a boundary. That's
Right.
just, wanting it to be about me as
Yes.
opposed to moving forward in my life. So
Right.
definitely learning that one too.
And the
Man.
other side to that token too is making sure, like, so let's be clear, if you're friends with me or with Lee and we haven't seen you in a minute, it's not because you did anything wrong, but it's also because, if you're used to being that 100% when you are seeing that person and you just know that you are not, that is, that's the internal struggle that I'm going through. It has nothing to do with the other person, you know?
Yeah, I get
And I
it.
want to make sure, like, that
Yeah.
that's the disclaimer I want to place on this is, like, if I haven't talked to somebody in a minute, it's because I'm trying to put all my ducks in a row in my own life before I can go at you at 100%. I mean, that is just
Mhm.
who I am and how I operate. And sometimes when I choose to step away, it's, I promise you, it's about me. It's got nothing to do about with the other person.
Uh-oh, yeah, we just got the "It's me, not you" from Julie.
Yes,
It's
it's me,
no, but
not you,
not
and I own
but
it. I own it.
all joking aside, I get that 100% and agree with you. Yes, like you can speak for me on that one too. That is us trying to regroup, you know, just put our pieces of our own puzzle back together before we
Right.
can hey, I'm here for you too, you know?
Yes. Yes.
100%.
Yes.
100%. All right, rule number 3. Well, no, you know what? Hold on. Before we get to rule number 3,
Yes.
why don't we go ahead and take a break?
Okay.
Because I got a feeling there's some people who are gonna go out and buy loofahs after the beginning of the show. So let's take a break, and we come back, we'll go through the last few rules of the burned haystack method. Man, say that fast 3 times.
Yeah.
All right, stay right there, folks. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, welcome back from the break. Hope you enjoyed some of those spots there because, yes, I talked about a loofah in the beginning of the show. We will do an episode on skincare, healthcare, all that. I just, oh man, it's great. Just sorry. Anyhow, what we've been talking about on this episode is the burned haystack method. And while it is what was applied for dating apps, we're also talking about how you can apply this in real life. So
Correct.
let's jump back into the last few rules there. So, this is a good one.
Oh,
Rule
yes.
number 3 is only respond to messages that are quality. And yes, I put quality in all caps. Um, you know, oh, you first. You first, Julie. Go ahead.
I just, for me, I just sum that up to like the ick factor. Like if someone, and again, I'm not just putting this towards apps because honestly, I'm only on, am I on any apps? I think I ended up turning them off because they just get such to be such a turnoff.
Sure.
Um, but I call it for me, it's the ick factor. So
Mhm.
like if literally all you can do is send me memes and that is the basis of our communication. Like,
Mm, yeah,
seriously?
that's
And it's just like,
now
so
memes are good. They're
memes are
funny,
okay. Yes,
or
they're
or
funny.
or they might mean something, not just funny
Yes.
ones, but it could be. But if that's all it is,
Correct. So if you
yeah,
and I engage on a daily basis or every other day, and you send me a meme, that's one thing. But if it's
right.
a meme like every morning or every afternoon, like, or I like the example that she was talking about when it came to the dating app thing
It was.
was good morning, beautiful. And then she's like, do you know how many people he copies and pastes that to? And
I
I'm
was
like,
about to
oh
say
my,
that. I love it. That example was so on point. Hey,
yes,
beautiful.
yes. And so, like, I'm to the point where if I get something like that, I literally said, how many other people have you sent this to? Like, I guess
and
I go back to the bitchy profile because I'm like, how many people have you really sent this to? Is this working for you?
and whether it's 10 or 100 doesn't really matter. It's
No.
Man, that is so impersonal. That is not, or
Yes.
well, as the rule says, that's not quality, right?
No.
That's not
No.
quality because so here's how you know if it's personal or not, right? When we did our last show, and I was like, hey, congratulations. You're like, what? Because your son had graduated, right? Like
Right. Right.
that's a personal message. I'm like, hey, congratulations, something like that. That's
Yeah.
because you know the person and you're engaged with them that's quality communication. That's not,
Correct.
oh hey, what you doing? Or
Yes.
I'm sorry, as the
Yes.
kids, WYD, right? Like
Right.
that's oh man, quality. There's so many things that are built on communication, first of all.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, quality messages. That's funny. And if y'all are out there dating right now, I, I feel for you. My
Oh,
heart.
you feel for me? Do you feel for me? Let me tell you, you
My
need to
heart.
feel for
My
me.
heart.
It does. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It really is.
Oh man, I don't know how
Because
y'all do it.
it's the whole ick factor. It really does exist. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, and I'd like to say whether it's self-inflicted or otherwise, because the thing is you set yourself up for it. You know what I mean? If you keep
that's fair.
responding, I'm gonna go back to
Mhm.
Dr. Phil, how he talks about, you teach people how to treat you.
That's
So if
mhm.
every time someone sends a meme and you're responding to it and blah blah blah
Guess what?
blah,
They're like, oh, this is working. This is
exactly,
they're digging me.
exactly. Which
Mm,
again, I'm not saying I'm against the memes. It's who is sending it, when they're sending it, and like I don't know. Like if
I
we
get
speak
it.
on,
You don't
yeah.
don't send you any more memes. I get it. I'm sorry. Okay, my bad. My
But
bad. I thought it
you
was
know what
funny.
I
No,
mean.
I
You know
know.
what
I
I
do. I
mean.
do. Quality messages, y'all,
Yes,
in the relationship dating world or non-dating world, but still relationships. Quality messages.
right.
Oh, the next one, and this is one of those algorithm things too. Um, it I didn't even understand it until we went through it.
Okay.
So avoid long chatting messages inside the dating app.
Okay.
But this is not just about the dating app. This is I got something to share here. So
Okay.
I would almost say avoid long conversations in text chats, whatever text chat you have. And I say that because I've tackled this with clients before in
Okay.
coaching, and I know that a lot of people communicate through the texted word now, but there are so many misconceptions that can be made from the texted words.
Hmm.
If someone's having a rough day, having a bad day, having a moment, and they get your text, they're not reading it from how you are meant for it to become across. Everything that's going on around them, they're in a heightened state. So they're going to be reading that message from a whole different perspective than how you may have meant it. And then that changes their response to you. And then your response is like, well, wait, that's not what I meant. Why are they coming at me like this? Right. So
Right.
there's so many things that can be misunderstood, the misconceptions, misconstrued, all of that. That's what I take away from, don't stay long in. If it's a quick message or if you can be clear, fine. But
Hmm.
some things are meant better for a phone call. Like you
Right.
hear the person's voice. Um, go ahead. Sorry. I had to
No,
get that
no, no,
out.
no. I understand totally what you're saying because like I almost call that like it's like an emotional setup. Like you've sat there and sent this person this whole book, okay?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I don't know, you don't know, are they at work? Are they with their children? Are they with their
Hmm.
parents? Are they in a situation where they're giving the person their, complete undivided attention? And you're setting yourself up because if they don't respond,
You're
it,
gonna lose it.
you're
I'm,
gonna go ballistic. Or
they
or
left
heaven
me on
forbid,
red.
they send you the thumb that they've read it. That's like it's so hard because you get into that
Yeah.
point where you're sitting
Yeah.
there like, okay, I want to acknowledge this because I want them to, get the receipt that I received this. But
Right.
at the
Right.
same time, it's like, um, I am not in the proper situation to actually respond to this. So the
Mhm.
longer you wait, the more and more this person is getting themselves in a frenzy. You don't care, they don't care, whatever. They're about to turn off their location. It's just like, oh my goodness, like it's not that serious. So yeah,
Mhm.
it also becomes kind of like an addictive state too. Like you send a message
And
and
you're
then you
checking
expect a
to see.
response like immediately, and especially it's like the more I write, the more the person's going to want to respond, right? And it's just like, not necessarily. Like, again, if
Mhm.
the other
Mhm.
person is doing something else, I don't,
Called
maybe
called having a
eating a
life.
sandwich.
Just
Exactly. It's just kind of like, and I'm awful for that. I will tell you, my phone is usually on do not disturb. I will check it like around lunchtime and I will check it in the evening. But like,
Mhm.
it's like before it's lunchtime and then when I'm leaving from work, that's when I check it during the day. I don't live by
Mhm.
my phone.
Mhm.
And so I mean, that's even something that is hard to get my family to understand. Not my children, because my
That's
children,
different, right? No,
yeah,
they
my
have to be in
children can
touch with
come
you.
through.
Yeah.
Yes, my
Yeah.
children can come
Mhm.
through.
Mhm.
But like oh, should I even say this out loud? My newly retired mother, while I love her ever so dearly, doesn't always understand when I don't get back to her like immediately. And it's just kind of like, well, I was in the meeting, or like I have a, back-to-back meeting, or I have this or I have
Sure.
that. But I promise you I will get back to you at some
Mhm.
point. But
Right.
there's much to be said about that person who can wait 2, 3, 4, half the day for your response.
I would say waiting
I'm
2, 3,
sorry.
4 days. Just tell your mom not to watch this episode. That's just tell
Right?
her. And just
Don't watch this one, Mom. But
just
yeah,
pass this one.
but no, there is much to be said about that person who is
Yeah.
patient and understands, like, hey, you've got things going on, I got things going on, but this is how I'm feeling in this moment, and I
Mhm.
want to release this to you so you know what's going on, and then give you the proper time to actually respond to it. I
And that's
mean,
also that's how you know there's that quality trust between those people, right? Because
yes.
it's not about, oh my gosh, it's immediate. No, it's just pump the brakes. Like you said, I'm in this moment right now. I know that you got a life, so I'm gonna send this, and I know that when you have a moment,
Oh, look.
and will respond appropriately when you have the
Yes.
time and space to do it.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
so 100%. Now that rule was more about the algorithm for apps.
Correct.
If
Correct.
you're constantly in the app, it's gonna they want to keep you in the app, folks.
Yes.
By
Yes.
the way, they want to
Yeah.
keep you there.
Yeah.
So just so you're aware of that, y'all, they want to keep you in the app.
And I want to keep you there too, because that's the other thing. When people ask for my actual number to like want to text,
Ah,
that's when I get a little flaky. I get real flaky real quick, just so we're clear. I want to keep it in the app,
555. Oh wait, no, sorry.
just to be honest.
I didn't mean to rat you out. Sorry.
That's all good.
So rule number 5, and I'm gonna speak to this one too outside of the dating app.
Mhm.
But this one is do not engage in any arguments. And yes, refer back to rule number 3. If you forgot it, rule number 3 was quality messages. Okay,
Yeah.
quality messages. So um, I'll let you get your thoughts out if you have any about no arguments. And then I'll share what I have to say. Um,
Well, I mean, I think I feel like I might have shared this with you, and I feel like we have like gone back and
mhm.
forth about the negging,
Oh
and
yes,
like it's a new form of flirting apparently.
yes.
And it's to actually like make someone feel bad about themselves so that they in
Mhm.
turn want to defend their behavior, or like all of a sudden are so
It's a
like
cousin to gaslighting. Yes.
exactly, exactly. And so
Yeah.
and I have friends who operate like that. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not, and it then becomes the whole, well, you can't handle it, and it's just like, well, why is it I have to handle you? Like, why do I
Mhm.
have to handle what you're dishing out? I'm confused. Last I checked,
Mhm.
we were not in fourth grade, but okay,
Well,
but
some might still be stuck there, so there you go.
but yeah, so there's my family and I, yeah, we can toy with each other and kind of rag on each other kind of a thing, but and have
Sure,
fun with
sure,
it. But
sure.
there's a time and place for that, and
Mhm,
so
mhm.
if your means of conversation is only to try to get me to step out of character, then I that's just not where I want to be. Yeah, that's not who I
Not
am.
gonna happen. Well,
Exactly.
and that even ties into what I was gonna share, and this was with, I'll be very general because it was a very specific text conversation that I was having with a person, and this person was sharing something with me,
Mhm.
okay? I didn't go to this person and ask this person, "How are things? What's going on?" They brought it to me. So over a period of time, um, I will say that this particular person took on acting like a victim.
Mhm.
Some things probably true, some things probably not, but that was the pattern. And so I got kind of tired of that. And like, look, you know, how you are perceiving this situation is a choice.
Correct.
And they weren't particularly happy about that and how I explain. Now, mind you, this is all over text.
Mhm.
First of all, I went
Just
down
sent
the
you
wrong
one, so
rabbit hole.
yes.
Went down the wrong rabbit hole. But then, tried to explain, well, it's a choice because X, Y, and Z. Well, I disagree because X, Y. Okay. All right. I should have learned my lesson, should have stopped there. It continued on and on. So yes, like you can't do that because then um, everything that I tried to explain was, well, now you're just doing this, and now you're not acknowledging this, and
Right.
now so on and on. And I was like, you know what? You are entitled to your opinion. I will no longer be answering questions about that situation. Flat out.
Right.
Conversation's over.
And it's because you're giving the answers that they don't want. That's all.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
and I get it, but I broke my own rule, and and I realized, and I was like, oh yeah, no, can't do that anymore. Can't. So once it clicked for me, I was like, yeah, we got to stop
Yeah.
because it's not going to get any better. It's not going to change anything. This person is feeling the way they feel, and they're entitled to that, but I don't have to be part of that.
Right. Right.
So no arguing over text
No.
ever.
No. And honestly, I've stopped that. So I think with these rules, honestly, if you are genuinely living by these rules, not even just an app, but in your real life, you lose FOMO. There is no fear of missing out because at this point, you don't really, not that you don't care, but it doesn't affect you in the same way. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
And so,
mhm.
as you were talking about someone who is obviously emotionally charged, you're trying to address the issue without it being escalated. And I have found, like for myself, what I've said to that person is when you're ready to receive the information that I would like to give you, you let me know. Because they do. That person has to
Hmm.
come off
They gotta
of
come
that. They've
down.
got to come down. They got to come
Sure.
down. And if you don't allow them to let them come down, they're just going to keep escalating.
Mm,
And then but no, I can tell you I have used that tactic many a times and have said,
mm.
you know what?
When you're
When you are
ready.
ready to receive what I
Mhm.
think would help you, you let me know.
Good. Man, that
And
we're
it like triggers, and then they're like, "Oh,
well,
obviously I'm
because
not."
it snaps them out of that
Exactly.
escalation, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. It
Man, that
really does.
we're leaving it right there because that like, thanks for telling me now, Julie.
Yeah.
I wish I had done appreciate
As
it,
long as I've
appreciate
never
it.
used it on you, I don't think I
Wait, now I'll be looking for it.
I say I don't think I have.
No, 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 not yet. Not
No,
yet.
I don't
No,
I've never
no,
had to. So, we're
no.
good.
But
We're good.
I man, that would have been when you're ready to receive what I think can help you, let me
Mhm.
know. That
Yes.
is a great de-escalation text. But, I'm actually fine with the way I ended that conversation.
See, and there it goes again, that it's not also not fear of missing out, but it's also,
The
leveling the
boundary.
relationship and saying, how much do I value this like if it
Mhm.
makes more sense for me to, let this go for the moment, then
Yes.
let it go. Let it go.
And I released it. I let it go. And
Good for you.
me and this person are still fine. I
Yeah.
just but it was no longer going to be a worthwhile conversation.
Yeah. So
So
you just stay away from that topic, I'm sure.
100%. 100%.
And as adults, you could do that. So that's awesome.
It is okay. Absolutely okay.
Yeah.
Folks, well, we hope you have enjoyed this episode of Cruising with the Coaches conversation with Julie and Lee. Hopefully, you come away with some things to think about that you can apply in your life or on dating apps if you're on them. And we'll see you next time. But don't forget to subscribe, or you can check us out on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen, you can find us. Until next time, Lee and Julie signing off.